To my Democratic friends, what I'd suggest is let's make sure that we understand this is a long game. This is not a short game. And to my Republican friends, I would suggest I think this is a good agreement because I know that they're swallowing some things that they don't like as well. And I'm looking forward to seeing them on the field of competition over the next 2 years.
Joining me again are Congressman Alan Grayson, Arianna Huffington, co-founder and editor-in-chief of the Huffington Post, Ezra Klein of the Washington Post, and Robert Greenstein, founder and executive director of the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities. Congressman, you wanted to respond to what Ezra just said about the business taxes in this thing.
Yeah, what this bill does is it lets you deduct all the depreciation you would have for the next 19 years going all the way out to 2030 on any investment that you make and do it next year. It's as if you bought a house for $300,000 and got a $300,000 tax deduction, $300,000 tax deduction in the year that you bought the house. And that's what the administration's done. Now, it's the administration that says that this is a $150 billion giveaway. The way you get to $30 billion instead of $150 billion is to say that this money would have been given out anyway over the next 19 years. But that's ridiculous. It's $150 billion next year. It is the biggest corporate tax giveaway I have ever seen in my entire life. And it's not just on the incremental investments they make, not the extra investments that they make. It's on investments they would have made anyway. In fact, in the material they gave to Congress, it isn't even limited to domestic investment. They would literally be paying people to build a plant in China to take jobs out of the United States and put them in China.
Sir, I must respectfully disagree with you.
All right, Ezra,
Bob
go
Greenstein
quickly, and then I want to get
here.
Bob Greenstein in here.
But number one, I've sat with Larry Summers while he explains, number one, this is domestic, not foreign. I can't speak to the materials you got on this. But number two, this does get paid back. I don't believe you're suggesting, or maybe you are, that over the next, that there's not a depreciation that is going to get ratcheted back, because what you're doing is moving an existing tax break into 1 year rather than over a period of time. But why don't I let Bob speak to this, because he knows it better than anyone.
Bob Greenstein, go ahead.
You know, Lawrence, I'm not sure any group in town has put out as many reports over the years attacking as many corporate giveaways as we have.
That's correct.
This isn't one of them. Congressman Grayson is misinformed. Ezra's right. What this provision does is it accelerates into the next year or two tax deductions that corporations would have taken anyway in subsequent years. They get $150 billion in the next year or two, but they get $120 billion less. They pay $120 billion more in taxes than they otherwise would in the years after that. Those are the official figures. They're not from the White House. I think they're from Congress's own official estimator on this. That's not what's egregious in the package. What's egregious in the package is the Republican insistence on extending the tax cuts for people over $250,000 a year and further weakening the estate tax. And I think the bottom line, what I'd like to see here, is that we need to get the package through now. It will add about 1.5 million jobs by the end of 2011. It should take about 1 full percentage point off the unemployment rate. The real question is, at the end of 2 years, do the high-income tax breaks continue? And what we really need is for the president in 2012 to vow to veto any continuation of these upper-income tax breaks, take that to the American people and run on it in 2012.
Arianna, assuming this bill goes through, and I see every sign that it will, there are small noises about it. I think Congressman Grayson will vote against it. A handful of Democrats will vote against it. But it's going to go in the House and Senate in some form with minor refinements. And we do get to the spot that Bob Greenstein just identified that is so crucial here, which is when these expire again 2 years from now, as we will then be in a presidential election situation. This may have to be dealt with in a lame duck session then. It may be dealt with earlier in the year. What do you think, looking forward, this is hard to do with Barack Obama, what do you think his approach to this will be during his own presidential re-election year?
Well, first of all, Lawrence, I want to comment to the shrinking of our national debate. It's really sad when Bob Greenstein, somebody I admire a lot, is saying that the most important thing now going forward is to not extend the tax cuts for the richest Americans beyond 2012. I mean, this is it. This is all we can hope for, right? That the president will actually veto them or promise to veto them after 2012. So we've gone from making the deficit the most important thing to now making not extending the tax cuts beyond 2012 for the richest Americans the most important thing. And the debate about what's really happening in the country, which is that we have this massive long-term unemployment. We're not even discussing the fact that those who have been unemployed for over 99 weeks are not getting anything more. We're not even discussing the fact that we are talking about unemployment benefits of $300 a week for people who've been unemployed for weeks on end without any prospect of being re-employed. We're not discussing the fact that we have millions of kids graduating from college not being able to get jobs. That debate around jobs and job creation has really disappeared, and that for me is the saddest thing. And the highest priority for the president right now will be to bring that debate back into the center of the national awareness, no matter what happens to this deal.
Congressman Grayson, Ariana is absolutely right about how much we've narrowed the boundaries of possibility here, especially with what is now the looming Republican takeover of the House of Representatives. Having worked only in a Democratic House of Representatives, what do you imagine the workings of the Republican-controlled House of Representatives are going to look like next year?
Well, they'll do what they always do, which is to try to enact selfish legislation that benefits only their benefactors, the greedy rich. That's what you're going to see in bill after bill presented to the House of Representatives on the floor. But regarding this particular bill, before we move on from this, I have to tell you that I think you're going to see well more than a handful of people who are Democrats vote against this bill. I've heard dozens upon dozens of Democrats talk about this bill in its current form in the caucus, and the number of Democrats who said they voted for it so far is 4. That's
well, Congressman,
4.
What I have in mind at the moment is how many Democrats, over 100, said they were absolutely going to vote against any health care bill that did not have a public option in it. Every single one of them who said they were going to do that reversed their position, voted for it. I think I don't know. You and I can guess about it. It could be as many as 40 or 50 vote against it, but it won't matter. They'll pick up the Republican votes to do it. We're going to come back to this as this story continues. I want to thank you all for tonight. Congressman Alan Grayson, Ariana Huffington, Ezra Klein, and Robert Greenstein, thank you all very much for joining me tonight.
Thank you.